Welcome to the Celiac Diaries podcast. I'm your host, Lucia Cordero, and this is where we get real about life with celiac disease. Each week, I'll share practical gluten-free tips, wellness hacks, and honest conversations about the emotional side of living with an autoimmune condition. Think of this as your weekly mix of support, relatability, and inspiration to help you not just survive, but thrive with celiac. Before we dive in, just a quick reminder, I'm not a medical professional. Everything I share is based on my own experience living with celiac disease. This podcast is not medical advice, so please always consult your doctor about your own health. Welcome back to the Celiac Diaries podcast. I'm your host, Lucia Cordero, and we have a guest joining virtually today. Lauren, you are my first virtual guest. I wanted to have you on so bad that I made this work. But Lauren Less from Less with Laur is here with us. Is that your real name, Lauren Less?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's just like, I feel like it was meant to be that you were supposed to have this page because that's such a good handle.
Yeah,
I love that.
I feel like I've just had like that tagline, less is more, for like my whole life. And then I was like, oh, I should use this for my Instagram.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that tagline, and that like relates a lot, I think, to diet and everything we're gonna get into today. Yeah, I love your content. So you live in Chicago. I used to live in Chicago, so like I know you don't post as much about like being out in Chicago, but it's still like the backdrop of all of your content. So I see it and I feel nostalgic. And your page is just, for listeners that might not know, it's such a good vibe because I feel like you're very aesthetic, but you also are so relatable. Like you make that balance in just like a really like great way. And like I love your little like graphics and kind of like meme content that you do. Like it's so girly but funny, which is such a fine line. So like I loved your like the Barbie meme that you did for the holidays. Do you know what I'm talking
thanks.
about?
Yeah.
So
those are fun. I like to do some like relatable funny content too. I think people enjoy it and they like relate to it.
I know, exactly. It's good to have a mix. So you do not have celiac disease, but I know that you've had such a wellness journey. So do you want to like tell our listeners kind of what led to you being gluten-free and dairy-free and your diagnoses?
Yeah, so I don't have celiac disease, but I have food allergies. So I actually developed food allergies later in life, which is probably part of my health picture. Like obviously there's still much research that still needs to be done, but it seems like something kind of happened with my immune system in my 20s, where I developed all these chronic conditions worsened. And then also I developed IgE food allergies to several foods. So basically my whole life I could eat whatever I wanted. And then all of a sudden I just had these allergies.
Yeah. And for someone that might not know, what exactly is IgE, food allergy?
Mm-hmm. It means it's like immune mediated versus like it's what you think of when you think of like anaphylaxis and using an EpiPen versus like an intolerance might be like a lesser reaction. I don't want to say a lesser reaction because I know like people with gluten intolerance can also have like severe neurological issues, but it's not necessarily life-threatening when it's an intolerance.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like that's the biggest difference with like an allergy versus like an intolerance or even celiac. Like I'm not going to go into like anaphylaxis from having gluten. It's just a totally different thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, wait. Okay. So how old exactly were you whenever you found out about those?
So I was 25. So I spent most of my life being able to just eat whatever I wanted and then had to pretty much change everything. And that's how my page started too.
Yeah. And what was that moment like? Did you have an allergic reaction to something that made you go to the doctor and get tested?
Yeah, I was pretty much having like constant allergic type reactions and symptoms. I had really bad GI issues, which is kind of separate, but I also was having hives and like my tongue was swelling and itchy throat. And I just was like, I think just continuously having reactions over and over. So then I got allergy tested.
Okay. And what exactly are your food allergies?
Wheat, dairy, egg, sesame, soy, peanut, buckwheat.
Okay, gotcha.
So a lot of them.
Yeah, a big change. That makes sense that it's kind of like an easy way to phrase it is like gluten-free and dairy-free, but obviously there's a lot more that you're thinking about beyond just that.
Yeah, I think I've found that a lot of people like are looking for gluten-free and dairy-free recipes, whether they're celiac or have autoimmune issues. Some people with like Hashimoto's might be told to go gluten-free, or some people might be told, okay, try gluten-free and dairy-free, you know, if you have these autoimmune issues or chronic conditions. So I think people find me if they have food allergies, but they also find me if they have health issues. So I feel like the gluten-free and dairy-free kind of like is the most relatable, or what people I've found are looking for the most.
Yeah. And how would you describe, like, outside of the allergies that you have? I know you've shared before on social media that you have POTS and EDS and MCAS. How do you, I guess, like, describe that to friends in your life?
So EDS is a connective tissue disorder, and that kind of ended up being, those three conditions ended up being the root issue of like 7 years of severe GI issues that I had. So it's a connective tissue disorder, meaning that my collagen is defective, and because we have collagen all over our body, it can affect literally every single body system. So it can affect the GI system. It basically can affect every single system in our body. So every single person has maybe different symptoms, or different things that come along with it. But for me, it was manifesting mostly like GI, and like I have like joint pain and things like that. But
What was that like growing up? Because, I mean, everyone that has either like a chronic illness or celiac or allergies, like everyone has a different experience. For me, I found out about celiac when I was 11. So from pretty early on, I was like eating gluten-free.
Yeah.
So I'm so used to it. And I think, you know, there's pros and cons to every experience, but like I can't imagine what it's like going 25 years and then finding out I needed to change my diet. So what was that like for you emotionally at the time?
I think too, I just like was so desperate to feel better that it wasn't as hard as it may seem, because I was like, I'll try anything at that point. And removing my food allergies like definitely helped a little bit, but it was weird to just all of a sudden not be able to eat anything when I've been eating it for my whole life.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, we'll get more into that in a bit, but I want to get into our segments. So first up, we have gluten-free fave of the week.
Lately, I've been obsessed with the lesser evil moonions. Have you had those?
Okay, I know Lesser Evil. What's the Moonion? What is that?
It's like a Funyun dupe. Like,
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wait, did you just
they're
post
really good.
that? Or am I like making that up?
I just posted like a roundup of all my favorite gluten-free things. I don't think it was in there, but I was talking about it in the comments. I don't know.
Okay, maybe I just like saw it somewhere, but interesting. Wait, I need to try those because I love the popcorn and I like that brand.
Oh, I just had their buffalo popcorn and it's really good too. I'm actually posting about it today.
Oh, yum. Okay, well, that's a great rec. Next up, we have news of the week. I saw this article and I just thought it was so heartwarming and I thought it would be a fun thing to talk about. But a 6-year-old in Ohio helps launch gluten-free food corner at their community center. So she noticed that her local food bank and community center didn't always stock gluten-free items, despite obviously there's like a need for that, for allergy-friendly options. And she happens to be gluten-free, and she like passed this food corner and was asking her parents questions about it. And she was like, oh, well, do they have a gluten-free section for people like me? And turns out they didn't have one. So she, and I'm sure her parents, partnered with the community center to set up a dedicated gluten-free corner stocked with allergy-friendly products. And I just saw this and I was like, I love that things like this are happening. And I just think it's so sweet that she thought of that and then is making a difference. So wanted to share some positive gluten-free news. Yeah,
that's so sweet.
Totally. Okay, so I want to get more into like your experience, you know, like having these symptoms and going to the doctor, because I think like it's so common for people with whatever it is that they're trying to figure out about their health to go to the doctor and like not be taken seriously, and like you're going through all of these hoops and it can be years of like not having answers. So I'm curious if you can just like take us through more of that experience, because I think it helps people feel less alone when they hear that it's not just them that has to deal with something like that.
I feel like it's definitely a common experience with people who have autoimmune diseases or chronic conditions. But I had severe GI issues for 7 years and no doctors could figure out what was going on. So eventually they sent me to Mayo Clinic. and I saw a GI there, and then he was the one who was like, okay, I think you have a connective tissue disorder. And that's kind of what led me on the path to actually like figuring out what was going on with my body. But after he said that, I still had to wait like another year to see a geneticist, and then like another year to see a neurologist. So it was a very long journey. And I think even like now people who are getting diagnosed with these things, it's even longer. Some of these doctors have like 2 or 3 year wait lists, and
Wow.
it's horrible to like just for people to like start to figure out what's going on with their health.
Yeah. And what were you doing at the time? Because you were in your 20s, right? Like, how were you managing all of that with like working and like a social life? Like, did it affect your life in other ways?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like, I mean, I was also working at a stressful job at the time, so I don't think that really helped. And I just kind of got to a point where I was like, okay, something is wrong and I need to figure it out. But yeah, I feel like I look back and I'm like, I don't even know how I was functioning. It's kind of like I was just like a zombie, like walking through my life. Because I was also, I mean, so fatigued all the time. And I feel like I would just go to work and then go home and sleep. And I mean, I still had like somewhat of a social life, but my body like would hit a wall a lot, and I would be like, I can't go out. I have to go to sleep. So
Yeah,
it definitely
totally.
affected that.
No, that's so relatable. I remember when I was younger thinking I was more of an introvert because I would just get tired like so easily. And like none of my friends had the same issue. But then now, like being more in control of my health, I realized like, oh, that's like looking back on it, that's totally why I was feeling so fatigued. Like, because I'm very extroverted. I love like going out and like doing things. But when your body is, you know, going through a lot of inflammation or, you know, in my case, ingesting gluten and attacking itself, that obviously is going to cause that fatigue. But if you don't have the answer to it, then it's hard to know what's going on.
Right. For sure. What was your experience like? Do you remember?
Yeah, well, I was so young when I got diagnosed because I was 11. So I think like the main reason my parents took me to the doctor was just stunted growth. Like I just wasn't growing. So that's really what led me to the doctor. And I think because I was so young, I was dealing with all of these GI symptoms, but I didn't have the vocabulary to explain that to my parents or even to realize that that was something that wasn't normal. So I was just kind of like going along with whatever my parents said. And it wasn't until like my early 20s, honestly, that I started to do more research for myself about what this was and get more serious about cross-contamination and things like that. I'm curious, is cross-contamination something that you need to be mindful of? Because I know it's such a spectrum with every person. Okay, gotcha. Was that something that you knew from the get-go when you found out about like your allergies, or was that something that you learned over time?
Yeah, I would say I knew about it at first, but I don't necessarily think like the allergist did a great job of explaining it to me. I feel like it was something I had to kind of like learn and understand and then like learn how to advocate for myself too. Because you like really have to you really have to understand it in order to be able to explain it to like friends and family and restaurants. So I think I had to do like a lot of learning and education on my own too.
Yeah, exactly. And how did you do that at the time? Like, were you just kind of like going on Google and just like searching as much as you could? Because I think that's such a common experience. Like for me with celiac, my dietitian didn't really get into all those details with me. So it is kind of something that a lot of people feel like they need to take control of themselves and figure it out themselves. And that can feel overwhelming. So like how did you go about that?
I think it was probably some Googling and just learning. I mean, like when an allergist gives you an EpiPen and then tells you not to eat certain things, not everyone thinks about cross-contamination. Like if you're cooking something in the same pan that it could get on there. So I think I just had to learn about what it was and how to advocate for myself. And I think once I started going to restaurants and it kind of clicked because I was like, wait, like they're cooking it in the same thing. Is it touching it? You know? So that's how I kind of had to learn about it and start navigating that.
Yeah, totally.
Because at home I wasn't worried. So I think it really just like it really was when I started going out to restaurants with the allergies that I had to like think about it more.
I know like all of your, you know, diagnosis led to you starting your page. Was that like immediately after? I know I was reading somewhere on your page that you started it originally just to save like recipes and meal inspo and ideas, but then
Yeah.
eventually you started posting. What was your first post?
Oh, I don't even know. Yeah, I was really overwhelmed at first. So I was like, what am I gonna
Yeah.
eat? And I started saving all these like I just made a separate Instagram account to save gluten-free, dairy-free recipes. All the big blog like Rachel Mansfield and all the gluten-free people at the time, I was just saving all their recipes on here. And then I was like, okay, maybe I'll like just start posting what I'm making. I don't know. I should scroll back and look at what my first post was. I mean, it was
Yeah.
back when like we were just posting like photo squares. So I just
Yeah.
started posting photos of my meals. And then it was also, so I was diagnosed with the food allergies first. And then I was still trying to figure out what was going on with my health. So I think Instagram really helped me like find a community too of people who had like mystery health symptoms and didn't know what was going on because nobody in my life really was dealing with that. And I was in my 20s dealing with stuff in my early 20s, and that wasn't super relatable for other people at the time.
And were you, because you make a ton of recipes and share those, I love your, especially the sweet treats. They're like such creative ideas.
Thanks.
Yeah. Were you into baking or cooking before you were diagnosed with your food
Yeah.
allergies, or was that something? Okay, so you were already into that before.
I liked baking. I feel like I always baked with my mom when I was growing up, and like I think
Okay.
kind of started learning how to cook, and I would like cook a little bit in college, but I think having allergies definitely made me cook more and just like learn how to cook everything.
Yeah, totally. Did you just like start like experimenting with different things? Did you have any? Because I know like the transition people say, I mean, I really don't bake a lot. But I hear that like it is so much more difficult to bake gluten-free than, non-gluten-free.
Yeah,
What was that
for
transition
sure.
like for you?
I started off like making other people's recipes because I had no idea what to do and where to start. And then when I started kind of creating, I started off by I wanted to make things that I used to be able to eat. So I would like start learning how to substitute in gluten-free ingredients into recipes that I already used to make or found. And then from there, I started like experimenting with making my own. So it kind of was like a process before I felt confident enough to do that.
Yeah. Cool. So I know on your page you obviously talk a lot about like the food that you're making, but I also know part of your content is focused just on like general wellness and like non-toxic products. How did you become interested in that space, and what led you to start posting about that?
Yeah, so like my chronic health conditions really led me to start posting about that and just
Okay,
learning
yeah.
like because I was reacting to things too. Like I was getting hives like from laundry detergent. So I kind of had to revamp like everything I was using and then just ended up doing a deep dive into like ingredients and had my doctors and nutritionists telling me like you want to try to avoid these ingredients or these products. So I just started swapping over to things that are don't have as many chemicals in them and have not had reactions like that since. So that's kind of why I share that too.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And that's something I feel like I'm trying to learn more about, because there are more studies coming out. Like, even if maybe you're not having a specific reaction to it, there still could be like effects on your health long term
Yeah, for sure.
for the things that you're using every
Yeah.
day. What would you say, like, if someone is interested in making some swaps in their home, like, what's the number one thing that you think could make the biggest impact in like a kitchen, for example?
Yeah, I think what you're using the most. So, like, if you're cooking a lot, like, swap out your pans. And I mean, I think air and water are also really big ones because we're like in our homes or apartments breathing in the air all day. So, like, having an air filter can be really helpful and a water filter. If you're storing your food a lot, like storing it in glass instead of plastic, that's like a pretty budget-friendly swap that people can make too. But yeah, I always say like when it comes to products and things, like thinking about what you use the most because I think that's going to make the biggest impact.
Yeah, totally. That's good advice. And I know that you've been working with like integrative medicine doctors. Was that something that you seeked out like pretty soon after you were dealing with like your GI issues, or is that something that you started working with like more recently?
No, that was something I found like a lot later, I would say, is I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I was sent to Mayo Clinic and then I kind of went through the whole Western medicine system and they said like you have this condition, you have EDS, POTS, mast cell, and then it was kind of like, have a nice life. Like, there's not much you can do for it. I mean, they gave me a couple things. They were like, okay, you can work on your circadian rhythm, which actually was really helpful. You can wear compression
Okay.
socks, you can drink electrolytes. But it wasn't until I started working with like integrative nutritionists and doctors that I really was able to figure out like the patterns of why my symptoms were happening and get to like more of the root causes of what was going on.
Yeah, interesting. And for someone that hasn't been to like an integrative medicine practice, like what would you say is the biggest difference and kind of what are you working with them on? And how has that like been helpful for you?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference that you notice right away is how much time they spend with you. It's not possible for a doctor to sit with you for 15 minutes and help you with a chronic condition.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the issue is like when you go to an integrative doctor or nutritionist, they're usually spending like an hour with you and really taking the time to make a plan for you and listen to you and get your history. And like the way our medical system is set up, it's really not possible to do that in the time slot we have with our like regular Western medicine doctors,
Yeah, exactly.
unfortunately.
Yeah, I've never actually seen an integrative medicine doctor, but it's always been something in the back of my mind. I'm like, I just find that work to be so fascinating, and I feel like it could be very
Yeah.
beneficial. Cool. So we've talked a lot about like diet. Are there other things that you like to do in terms of just like keeping up with your health and managing it? Like take us through like your daily routine non-negotiables.
Yeah. I mean, what I've learned honestly is that the boring things, like the basics, are really the ones that are the most helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's like all these fancy tools and I love some of the fancy wellness tools. Like I do red light every day, especially in Chicago when it's freezing and I can't go outside or I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really like this like sleep and like regulating your circadian rhythm so that you're like waking up and going to sleep at around the same time every day is like so impactful. Getting enough sleep, which women like need more sleep than men, and I feel like that's not really talked about enough. And then like exercise, movement, hydration, eating, hitting specific macros that are personalized to me. I have to eat more protein than most people because of the connective tissue disorder that I have. So like I've learned all these things along the way that are like bio individual
Yeah.
and important for me to focus on. And what else? Honestly,
Yeah.
like the basics have just really moved the needle for me a lot. Like nervous system regulation and stress reduction. Um,
I
what
love that
else?
though because I think that's so important, and I think in the wellness space I think it's so cool that there's all these like gadgets and like cool studies coming out and things, and even
Yeah,
with like non-toxic like pans for example, or like non-toxic things in the home. Like obviously I think that's great and I totally believe in like the power of that and think it's important, but it's kind of one of those things like you can do that all you want, but if you're getting 4 hours of sleep every night, like that's really
exactly.
not going to move the needle for you in the way we're just like
Right.
focusing on getting a full night's sleep would. So sometimes it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it is the boring stuff that is what kind of
Yeah.
helps your health long term, I think. Yeah.
It really, yeah, it really is. And I think like a lot of people, everyone wants a quick fix or like a pill they can take, and that just isn't really the case. And that's what I've learned just having these health issues too. And of course, like there have been supplements that have really helped me. Like I said, I love red light. I love like Epsom salt baths. There's all these different things that I've tried. I've tried a lot of the biohacking things and the wellness tools. But yeah, like you said, it's like if you're not managing your stress, if you're not sleeping, if you're not moving and you're just sitting at a desk all day long, like your health is going to suffer, whether you have like a chronic condition or not. So I think that's important. And then like trying to stay off screens when I wake up and go to sleep, which is hard, but especially in the winter, I feel like. But that's a big one. And I like to get outside more. Honestly, like morning sunlight has been huge for me. And that's been something I think has helped with some of my conditions too. It's just hard in Chicago to get outside in the morning.
No, totally. It's
It's
funny you
freezing here
say
right
that
now.
because I know I do not miss the Chicago winters for sure. Even in New York, it's cold, but it's still better than Chicago. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting you say that because I do notice a big difference in the winter versus like the summer when it's warmer out in terms of like in the winter, I want to scroll more, I want to stay inside.
Yeah.
Even like I work a corporate job, but it's hybrid. So some days I'm in person, some days I'm working from home. And like it's maybe simple, but that like morning sunlight I get on my walk to the bus in the morning on the way to work, I think actually makes me feel so much better that day. And maybe it's like the connection in the
Yeah.
office and it's like a compounding effect, but
Yeah.
yeah, those daily habits do make such a big difference.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you because I know that you used to be a therapist, right?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you focused kind of more on like food allergies and chronic health issues with your work. Okay. Yeah, I'm curious because I think that's something, I mean, therapy I think is pretty normalized, at least with like our generation. I'm very like pro therapy. I think it's so important, but I think something that's less talked about is like someone having like food therapy or something to help in terms of like adjusting to like a lifestyle diet, say like a gluten-free diet for celiac or new allergies that they found out about. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just curious with your background in that, like what would you say is really beneficial from that work?
I mean, I think a lot of times, like people with food allergies might also have anxiety because they're overwhelmed and dealing with a new lifestyle or like worries around cross-contamination and things like that. It's obviously different for everyone. And I also worked with some like parents of kids with food allergies too. I think what I worked on a lot with people is like a growth mindset. And I always like said, just trying to make people's world as big as possible. And that's kind of like what I try to do for myself and what I try to do with my page. Just like it can be hard to go out to eat with your friends when you have food allergies. There's a lot of different barriers. You have to call the restaurant, you have to talk to the waiter or the manager, you have to advocate for yourself, you have to like double check things, and sometimes it can be exhausting. But like a lot of it too is like talking to people about what their values are and making sure that they're like living in line with their values. So if they value their friends, they value their time with their family, they value travel, like how can we make sure they're still living in alignment with those values, just like even with the food allergies? Because I think sometimes food allergies will keep people from traveling or keep people from spending time with their family or friends or doing other things that they might value. So that the values work I think is really important, and having kind of like a growth mindset around food allergies and chronic illness can be helpful too.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Yeah, I agree. I think it's like I see comments sometimes on my page that are like, oh, I don't know how you travel with celiac disease. Like, I could never do that. And it's like, I would never want someone to think that they wouldn't be able to have a life experience that they really want to have because of their autoimmune condition or allergy. So I love that mindset. I'm curious, whenever you were like adjusting to your allergies or even now, did you deal with that anxiety, or was that something that you struggled with?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's stressful for most people. I mean, some people lean the other way too, where they're too lax about it and don't bring their EpiPen. Like I think it kind of is a big spectrum until something happens, and then, you kind of want to get into the middle ground. But I mean, I think sometimes I would say, like, for me, it's usually more like exhausting than stressful. Like if I'm like, okay, we want to try a new restaurant, it's just like the whole mental load of like, I have to look up the restaurant. I like to look it up on Spoken, and then I like to call the manager at a time when it's not that busy so that they have time to talk to me and tell me if I can eat there safely or not. And then it's like going there and then talking to the waiter. So I think there's like a mental load that comes with it, and it can be exhausting. And sometimes it's like, okay, it's just easier to cook at home tonight. So I think that is what I deal with a lot.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm curious, since you post a lot about your allergies and like you're very open online, which I think is so amazing. I think it's really challenging to be vulnerable online, especially about something like your health. But I think it really is so powerful for people to see someone like you, and someone that maybe is dealing with something that's very similar to them. But I'm curious, is that something that's been like empowering for you? Is it like ever difficult with I don't know if you ever get any comments of people like not believing you and your allergies or negativity, or would you say it's a safe space?
I feel like I've been pretty lucky where I haven't gotten too many like I see rude comments in other people's stuff sometimes and
Hmm.
I definitely if something goes viral I get hate comments but it's like ew this looks gross or like something like that. I haven't had too many that are like personally attacking me, but it is hard to put yourself out there. And if somebody says something that's not nice, I usually just block them.
Yeah, that's a good rule of thumb. And
Yeah.
how would you say, because obviously you have such a successful page, it's like a lot of your work that you're doing. How do you separate, or if you do at all, like your personal identity from like your content or your allergies? Is that something that you think about?
Yeah, sometimes I think it's hard. It's hard because it is so much ingrained in my life. It's I actually like I'm trying to integrate it more naturally in with my life so that I don't feel like I'm like having to create content and then having to like live my life. But there is it can get blurry there and hard. But yeah, I don't know. I've been thinking about that a little bit, just like how I can make it more seamless to just share my life and fit content into my life without it feeling like I have to film something. It's hard. Do you struggle with that?
Yeah, no, I feel like it's such a balance. It's one of those things because it can feel easy to get in the trap of like, oh, I want to do this because this would be a cool video. But I feel like whenever I realized that I would have that mentality about something, I'd be like, wait, okay, I never want to do something just because it would make good content. Because if you're posting every day,
Right.
then it's like your whole life could just be about what's good content versus what you actually want to do. So I like
Right.
to frame it more as like, okay, this is what I want to do. And how can I make content about
Yeah.
this? So like the life comes first and the content comes second.
Yes.
But I
Yeah.
also am I'm not posting like specific videos about like a recipe or I guess what I would say is more like tangible, like valuable content. It's more kind of just like
Yeah.
sharing things as they come up. So maybe it's a little different because of that. But yeah, it is a fine line.
Yeah, it is a fine line. I've been trying to like really dial into like what am I craving this week? But then it's also sometimes I want to like hop on a viral trend or, somebody messages me and says, "Do you have a recipe for this?" And then I want to like help my community too and experiment with recipes that people are asking for. So
Yeah.
I try to balance it.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure if it's something that you're craving, like someone else out there is too.
Right.
So
Yeah.
just to kind of like end before we do like a rapid fire, what is like something that you wish that like more people just like understood, whether it was like a waiter at a restaurant or a new friend that you're meeting about like what it's like to like live with allergies or chronic conditions?
Yeah, I think that people think I'm so healthy because of the choices that I make, and I'm like, I don't have a choice. Like, I don't have a choice. I have to eat this way. I can't eat gluten, like, if I want to, or wheat or dairy. Like, I can't just
Hmm.
do that. Yeah, I think people don't realize that there's, like, not a choice in the matter, in any of it. Like, and if I didn't take care of my body, then I would be, like, way sicker. So I think it's
Exactly.
hard for people to understand that.
Yeah, that's such a misconception because like we are taking our health seriously, but in a way where it's like because we have to and we're just trying to be like the
Right.
baseline level of health versus it can appear from the outside of like, oh, she's just, trying to be like a super healthy person, which I mean that sounds great, but that's not really the goal of like eating gluten free. It's just what you have to
Right.
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's end with some fun rapid fire questions. So, one, I know we just talked about how we're not so into the wellness trends and the basics, but it's always fun to talk about wellness trends. What's one wellness trend that you're excited about for 2026?
I mean, I've been doing lymphatic drainage every day. I know people are really into the lymphatic drainage plates, and my parents have used those for years, and like I think they're really helpful. But
Oh,
I also
cool.
just like to do like the manual lymphatic drainage. I just do it every morning, and it really helps me because I just have like a sluggish lymph system from all the conditions that I'm dealing with. Like, so that really helps.
Wait, I love that. Okay, so what exactly do you do for that? Is it just like with your hands or do you have a
It's just
tool?
like very gentle. Yeah,
Okay.
it's really gentle. It takes like 2 minutes and you're just focusing on like a couple of areas of your body and just moving. It's like your collarbone, your neck, and your armpits, and your stomach, and then your groin and behind your knees. And you're just kind of like getting your lymph moving.
Okay.
It only
Fascinating.
takes a few minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so cool. And like every day that it adds up, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I don't know if it would be this one, but what's one habit that helped your health the most?
Okay. I don't know. That's a hard one. It's so hard because I feel like a lot of different things have like moved the needle a little bit.
It's like nothing in isolation, of course. Like everything works
Yeah.
together.
I mean, I
Yeah.
have to say, like, changing my diet because I had to remove my food allergies. And then I just started learning about food in general and reading labels and really being careful about what I was putting into my body and learning about how much food I need and how much protein I need and how much fiber I need and like really tailoring it towards, I mean, I don't perfectly hit my macros, but like just
Yeah.
focusing more on a balanced diet has really helped me and focusing
Yeah.
on blood sugar balance too.
Yeah, I love that. I would say the same even beyond just being gluten free, but I think having to read labels because of celiac just opened my eyes to reading labels in general and
Yeah,
all of the other ingredients.
for
And
sure.
yeah, it's taught me to just have a more well balanced diet with like higher protein, making sure I'm getting good fiber and stuff. So yeah, I would agree with that.
I didn't really look at labels before that.
Yeah, no, neither did I. And like when I meet, friends my age that don't have any sort of health issue or allergies, like no one is reading labels, it seems like.
Yeah.
It's kind of a newer thing
Yeah.
for people to start looking at the ingredients. Yeah, but it's kind of one of those things where it's like I wouldn't be reading labels if they weren't for celiac. So it's kind of one of those like blessings in disguise, I guess, with like having something because it teaches you other things
Right.
that you wouldn't know of before.
That's,
Okay,
yeah,
what's your
that's so
favorite
true.
restaurant in Chicago?
Ema.
Oh, I love that place. I used to live like really close
Yeah,
by.
it's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. We go there all the time for like special occasions and things. I feel like that's always my go-to.
Yeah. Have you been to Abba? I think it's its sister restaurant. Yeah.
Yeah, their like patio is really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm nostalgic for the Chicago restaurants. Okay, last question. If someone listening is feeling just exhausted, overwhelmed, and stuck with their health and they're trying to figure out answers, what is one thing that you would want them to hear right now?
I think just honestly, mindset was so helpful for me and just no, and even now, like my health is not perfect, but knowing that there's the possibility to improve things and that there's so many things out there that we haven't tried yet, that could possibly get our health to a better place always helps me.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's such a good note to end on, too. I love that. Thank you so much. This was such a
Sure.
informative conversation. I feel like I learned so much. I'm excited to
Thanks for
keep
having me.
following you. Yeah, where can everyone keep up with you?
Yeah, you can find me at Less with Laur on Instagram or TikTok, and then I also have a website with all my recipes.
Amazing. Cool. Well, thank you guys for listening to this week's episode. Don't forget to follow the show, rate, and leave a 5-star review. Send this episode to a friend, and I will catch you guys here next Wednesday for another episode. Bye. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Celiac Diaries podcast. I hope you're leaving with a tip, a story, or just a little inspiration to live your best life with celiac. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow the show, share it with a friend, or leave a review. I'll see you back here next Wednesday. And until then, stay well.